Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. This one is half English on the home side, a very well respected brewery over there, and it's half Swedish on the away side, and the Swedish brewery is one that you've seen me review a good number of things from before. One of my favourite Swedish breweries in fact. Both of these breweries of course have featured on the channel before, but the Swedish side of things has been more extensively covered of course. So for this review then we are going to go to Leeds in Yorkshire, and we're having a look at another beer from North Brewing Company, who are of course getting a lot of credits these days for their hazy New England style IPAs. But this beer will be a little bit different. This one is a West Coast double IPA coming in at 8.5% ABV, and this is brewed in collaboration with Beerbliotek, who come from Gothenburg on the West Coast. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital, as I've said countless times on this channel. But yeah, Beerbliotek, a very, very prolific brewery. North Brewing are very prolific as well, but from what I understand, they mainly stick to, you know, the kind of hazy type IPAs and pale ales and stuff. But I think they have done some sours and things in recent times as well. Of course, if you want to know more about the English craft beer scene, you can go and check out my friends, the likes of Craig at Kent Beer Reviews, Harry at Blue Nose Beer Reviews. We have Peter the Clueless Drinker, we've got Jayco Beer, and we've also got Rob Hopsine, and there's numerous other guys kind of starting up as well. So do make sure you go and check out my English beer tubing friends, and you can see North Brewing Company reviewed a little bit more often than you'll see it with me. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. As I've told you on the channel before, I love a good West Coast IPA. A few of the ones I've had recently have been a little bit of a letdown, to be honest, because they don't have the, you know, the high IBUs, the 80 at least IBUs that the style needs, and they tend to be a little bit more they tend to be a little bit too light, I think, in the mouthfeel. A lot of them, they don't tend to have the you know, the kind of sweet caramelly base that you want from this style actually. So yeah, I'm hoping that this one is not a letdown. The one that I had from Stigberry, it's the double yellow line, I was a little bit let down by that, but the one that I had from Ale Farm and Symmetry Brewing, that was really nicely done actually. So I'm hoping this is one that gives a good representation of what the style was originally. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. One of my favourite beer styles, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, it's the link to my other reviews that I've done from North Brewing before. I reviewed a few of their beers when I was in Durham. There's also a link there to my reviews that I've done from Beerbliotek, and hopefully you can see more beers added to both of those lists in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you, and one for all the Swedish beers as well. It will appear in both of those lists because it is dual nationality. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to the brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about these breweries then, and we'll start off with North Brewing, since these guys are the home brewery in this case. So North Brewing, as I mentioned earlier, are based in Leeds in Yorkshire in the north of England, and they were founded by John Janelle and Christian Townsley, who together owned the North Beer Bar, which has been around quite a long time. It opened back in 1997, but today this kind of parent company that they have operates 6 venues around Leeds. But apparently North Bar used to work quite closely with the likes of James Clay and Vertical Drinks to help promote craft beer in Yorkshire. Of course, you've got the likes of Rooster Brewing and things like that over there, who have been around for quite a while actually. You know, there is an extensive brewing history in Yorkshire actually. These guys were probably the first area that had proper, you know, they were probably one of the biggest areas in England, come to think of it, that had cask ales. You know, the English have got all this history with cask ales and things like that. But the brewery itself is located in Taverners Walk Industrial Estate. It's got a 200-person tap room and a 15-barrel brew kit. I think they have upscaled their fermentation capacity in recent times as well. But the brewers at the brewery are Seb Brink, who apparently used to work for Golden Owl, and also Darius Darwell, who worked for the Bristol Beer Factory as well, which was, they do some very nice beers, I have to say. I've had a couple of the Bristol Beer Factory things. Very good beer city that as well, incidentally. But over the last few years, they've continued to expand. They've built their reputation for the kind of New England hazy style IPAs, as well as doing, you know, some of these Gozes and Berliner Weisses, these types of sour beers. And as of May 2020, when I'm reviewing this beer for you, they've produced around 150 different beers, which is pretty impressive when you consider they've only been around for, you know, a couple of years. I think North Brewing have only really been around fully for about 3, maybe 4 years now. The English guys, of course, would be able to tell you a little bit more like that. But when I was in Durham, and that was would that be 2017, 2018, if I'm remembering rightly? Yeah, when I was in Durham, these guys were really just starting to get their beers out there a little bit more. The Hop Knocker, that would be 2018. Yeah, the Hop Knocker was really starting to get their stuff up and running, which was very good. So these guys are a very well respected English brewery, and if you're interested in the hazy IPAs, these guys are one that you definitely want to check out. North Brewing Company, of course, are quite widely available here in Sweden through the likes of Glassbanken, and in Copenhagen, of course, you can get them from the likes of Kiosk and things. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about North Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So on to the Swedish side of things then. Beerbliotek, one of my favourite Swedish breweries, as I've said. So Beerbliotek, as I've told you before, are based in Gothenburg, Göteborg as you'd say in Swedish, up on the west coast, and it was founded back in 2013 by a multinational group of friends. So there's Adam Norman, who's from Australia, Richard Bull, who's New Zealander, a Kiwi, Anders Hedlund, who is a Swede, and then we've got Darryl Denecker, who is from South Africa. And I've spoken to Darryl a few times through Facebook and things like that. He actually does watch quite a few of my Beerbliotek reviews that I've done, which is pretty cool. But Adam and Richard ran Bar Doppio in Gothenburg, and then Darryl and Anders were regular customers at the bar, and they often just used to sit and talk about beer. So one day they decided that together they were going to buy a kit and brew their own beer, and there we go. So the original brewery that they had is in the old Klippan Sugar building, which is a really nice old building. I have seen it actually, I drove past it, but it's very close to the old Carnegie Brewery in Gothenburg, which is actually quite a famous company actually. I need to see about reviewing the old Carnegie Porter for you, because that's one of the kind of Swedish classic beers from what I understand. But the brew kit that they had in there originally was from Brewfab in Scotland, and in their first year they managed to produce 38 different varieties of beer, which is pretty impressive. These guys are not scared to try different styles. That's one of the things that I really like about this brewery. They don't just stick to, you know, the hazy IPAs or, you know, whatever. They actually try lots of different things. I've had barley wines, I've had stouts, I've had, I think they do Scotch ales and things like this as well. I've had a number of different and very, very nice beers from Beerbliotek, but all of their beers originally were brewed in small batches, so it kind of meant that they stuck to the home brewing roots, and early on they didn't really have a fixed core range, if you like. They still don't, to be honest with you, but there are certain beers that are very popular that you can get fairly regularly actually. For example, A Moment of Clarity, which was originally brewed for GBG Beer Week 2016 or 2017, I forget, but Moment of Clarity is available regularly. A Passion for Gingers is one that you'll see quite often as well, and they've got some of the black IPAs often make an appearance as well. They have got regular beers that go through Systembolaget. But in 2015 they opened up a second brewery in Kungston, which is where they have their tap room, and they now run their main brewing operations from there. The older brewery is now used for producing their sour beers, and in the new brewery as well they now have their barrel aging program as well, and there's some very, very impressive beers in that actually. So I do recommend you try some of the barrel aged beers that you'll find from Beerbliotek. But the idea behind the name Beerbliotek is that they wanted to brew a wide variety of beers so that the customers could always learn about, so they could always learn something new about beer actually. So it's the same concept of having a beer library, and that's exactly what they've done. They've produced a ridiculous number of beers. As of May 2020, when I'm reviewing this beer for you, they've produced around 260 beers, and I think it was March, was it? The start of March or maybe February, they just released their first sour beers actually. If you check out my Brother Barrel review, that's the first ever sour beer I tried from Beerbliotek, and it was a pretty solid start, I have to say. I'm looking forward to seeing what they produce from this programme a little bit later on. But yeah, Beerbliotek, as I say, one of my favourite Swedish breweries. That's all I'm really able to tell you about them for the moment. I do recommend that you check them out. I hope that I can go to the to the brewery at some point and do a little out and about filming and meet Daryl. Actually, it'd be nice to do an interview with Daryl or something, so that's something you can look forward to in the future. But yeah, that's all you need to know about Beerbliotek. If you want to learn more, again, you can check out the brewery website. They've got a good list of a lot of the different beers that they've done in there. I don't think all of them, but you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And of course, you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages as well to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer then. I'm really curious about this one. There you can see on the front there is the North Brewing symbol, which you'll see on all the cans. North's artwork does tend to be quite graphical like this, you know. These kind of, I don't even know the type of art. Peter at the Clueless Drinker's probably getting very angry at my videos at the descriptions of art. He's very good at describing the labels and the styles and stuff on this. He knows it quite well. But yeah, there you can see there is North Brewing Company's symbol there, and you can also see Beerbliotek, their symbol down there. This one actually reminds me of the 94 DPMs that we used to have when I was in the Air Cadets, because the 95 ones were a bit more kind of patterny, but yeah, the 94s were a bit more kind of squarey and things like this. Obviously this one's more triangles, but yeah, this one, as I told you at the start, this beer is simply called West Coast Double IPA, comes in 8.5% ABV. The hops in this one are Chinook, Mosaic and Citra, and apparently this one has dextrose monohydrate in it, so I'm curious to see what that does to the beer, because dextrose, from what I remember, was something that was always usually added to the New Englands and things. But I really hope this beer, for me, a West Coast IPA, it has to have, you know, 70, 80 IBUs. It has to have a really kind of a good sweet backbone to it. Those are the two key ingredients that you need from a West Coast IPA. So I'm really hoping that this is a good one. But I did have a good West Coast IPA from Beerbliotek a wee while ago. I forget the name of that one exactly. I still have my file open with all the different Beerbliotek names that I had. I think it was called the yeah, that's it. I think it's that I'm So Aware This Is Happening. I'm pretty sure that was the West Coast one that I had. So yeah, that was a very, very nice beer actually. I do recommend that you check that one out. But let's get this guy out then, and we will get on to the tasting. 440ml can, this one. This was released on the 26th of May 2020 through the Tillfälligt assortment in Systembolaget here in Sweden. So buy it up while you can. I had to get this one out of Hansa in Malmö, so yeah. I think a lot of Swedes are quite frustrated at that at the moment, because you can't really order the not a lot of the stores are getting the Tillfälligt assortment from what I understand, so yeah, you can't order them into your local shops either. But yeah, this one I think will be really interesting. So as I say, Chinook, Citra and Mosaic in this one. Chinook's that lovely big grapefruity piney resinous hop. Mosaic gives you the kind of lovely tangerine oranges, and Citra of course gives you, you know, the typical mangoes and a lot of other kind of little tropically fruit complexities. So as you can see with this beer, it looks the part, it really does. You can see there's a solid, just under a finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream ivory fawny coloured head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, quite a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but overall it does look pretty nice. And I'm just wondering from the aroma of this, one of the guys over in Copenhagen that sent me the homebrew a while ago, they were telling me that in the West Coast IPAs, one of the tricks that used to be added to these was, that brewers used to use, was to add a little bit of grape sugar into the brew. And this one, it's an old trick that was used in a lot of West Coast IPAs apparently. So I'm wondering, just from the aroma, the little bits of aroma that I'm getting off this, if they have done it with this one. There's a few kind of indicators there, but this beer is pretty clear. It does have a little degree of haze to it, and that is what you expect from the West Coast IPA as well. But in terms of colour, I would describe this one as a medium, kind of medium amber. It's not the darkest of ambers that you're going to come across. Of course, the things that determine the colour of your beer are the types of malts that are used, and also the length of the boil, because that affects the caramelisation of the sugars. So yeah, those are the two things there that will affect what colour your beer is going to be. But I think from the colour of this, I don't think this will have caramel in it. I don't think it will. And as I say, I always like a big kind of sweet caramelly base from this, but I'm really curious to see how this one turns out. If it's got a sweet malt base, even if it's biscuity, and if it has the high IBUs, that'll be me satisfied. This is a style that I am picky with because of recent experiences. But let's look at the aroma then and see how it got on. It certainly looks the part. It smells pretty nice actually. It doesn't smell overly dank, it really leans towards the fruity kind of side of things. yeah, so there's a lovely big fruitiness to this. You get a lot of tangerine notes, and that'll be from the mosaic. You do get a good bit of mango out of it as well. To me, there's a good chunk of gooseberries and things in there as well. I do wonder if Chinook's maybe been used as the bittering hop, although it can be used as a dry hop as well. Although I don't think, personally, I don't like it so much as a dry hop. I think Chinook works better as a bittering hop because of the big grapefruity and danky pine that it's got. Columbus, of course, is a great bittering hop with that lovely kind of spicy floral character it has. But yeah, the aroma of this one, I have to say, it really leans towards a kind of juicy, oily, fruity kind of character more than anything else. You've got some tangerine oranges in there. You do have a bit of mango-y quality as well, but you've also got a good wee bit of a, I find this one really leans, it's got a gooseberry lychee sort of thing. As I say, I wonder if that's, if they have added one of these sort of grape sugars or something like that to it. I'm not sure exactly, even with my kind of chemistry knowledge, I'm not sure exactly what dextrose is, the dextrose monohydrate. I'm not sure exactly what properties that brings to the things. I know what the molecule looks like, but as I say, I don't know what properties it really brings to the beer. But that's maybe research for another thing. Maybe I should do some a kind of series of videos on beer chemistry or something, because it's something I'd like to learn more about, and I've got the background to do it, of course. But yeah, the fruity notes in this one are quite oily. Oranges, bit of mango, a little bit of gooseberry, good bit of lychee, I think, out of this one. So yeah, not too much to report on that. Not really a darker tropical fruit, I have to say. The beer doesn't smell overly dank or overly bitter as well. I mean, you can smell a little bit if you sugar it up. You smell a little bit of a kind of floral character. You do get a little bit of grassiness out of it. It leans more towards the grassiness on the green side of things, in honesty. And you also have just a little bit of an earthy quality to this one too, which I think will be the Chinook, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is another bittering hop in this one apart from those three. I think maybe the fact that they're listing those hops, these are the ones they've used in the late editions in the boil. But yeah, on the malty side of things, there's not too much to report there either. I mean, you've got a nice, you know, there is a bit of a kind of pale malty bready sort of thing going on. You don't really, obviously you're not going to get oats and cream and things like that out of this one. You've got a little bit of a biscuity sweetness there. It smells a bit like a kind of McVitie's digestive sort of thing. So yeah, there's not really all that much to kind of report on this one. So yeah, it's pretty much kind of white bready, a little bit bread crusty, then you've got a wee bit of a biscuity kind of caramelly thing coming out of this one. So yeah, I really like how this beer goes together. This one's got a really nice, the aroma of this is pretty nice, but I'm a bit worried because I don't smell too much dankness and things out of it. But yeah, let's have a taste of it then and see how we get on. So this one is the West Coast Double IPA, coming in at 8.5% ABV, brewed by North Brewing Company in Leeds in Yorkshire, England, brewed in collaboration with Beerbliotek, who are from Gothenburg here in Sweden, one of my favourite Swedish breweries. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål. Yeah, what I will say, it's got half of it right. It's got the nice sweet malt base. I have to say the malt base on this is really well done, but the bitterness isn't there. And I suppose I can understand why they do this, because people that drink IPAs these days, they're not used to the 70, 80 IBU things that we were drinking back in 2013, 2014, these kind of things. They're not used to the high bitterness that we used to have. This one, in terms of IBUs, I really don't find this that different from your kind of standard New England, which is usually about 30. And yeah, I mean, some people will be saying, yeah, you don't need the bitterness to enjoy, you don't need the bitterness in the West Coast IPA, and I just have to disagree with that. I think you do. You need at least, I think, 60. 60, I think, is where the border should be on this one. So I have to say, from a bitterness perspective, I'm disappointed that they've kind of... These are two very capable breweries, so don't get me wrong on that, and the beer is good, but if it's a West Coast IPA, it has to have the bitterness. it has to have at least 60 IBUs. And I don't get that from this one. It really doesn't feel bitter. You know, if you're using Chinook in this, you can get a hell of a lot of pine resin out of it. The thing that determines your bitterness, guys, is when you add the hops in the boil. If you add them very early on, you know, you've basically got a gradual trade-off. Usually an IPA's boil is about 90 minutes. So you add your hops in the early stage. You add your hops in at the you know, you usually add a little bit in at the, you know, the very start, and then as you gradually get better, as you gradually go over the time, your bitterness, the amount of bitterness that you get out of the hops drops off, and then the kind of flavour and aroma starts to take over. That's the kind of trade-off that you have with these IPAs. And I think this one, I think they've added all the hops, or most of the hops, within the last half hour, which is what you do with a lot of the New England IPAs, and then you dry hop them, of course. I don't think there's been many hops added to this in the early stage. They've got the malt base, they've got a really, really nice malt base in this one, I have to say, but they need more early edition hops in this. They need to put the bitterness of these beers up, and this isn't just North and Beerbliotek. The one that I had from Beerbliotek before, that I mentioned earlier, I'm sure had a bit more bitterness to it. I think that had at least, you know, 50 or 60 IBUs in it, so it pulled it off quite well, but it was a little bit more biscuity than caramelly. This just needs more bitterness, and then I think it's a properly authentic West Coast IPA. But as a standalone IPA, I think it is quite nice. I'm just a bit disappointed it doesn't have the bitterness that a West Coast IPA should have. And you get a wee bit of it, you do get hints of it around the kind of edge of the tongue. And you know, it could, in fairness, that you could make the argument there, I've drank so many of these beers that maybe I'm just a lot more used to bitterness than I was. But in fairness, I have had quite a few beers that have given me more bitterness. I think this one, I just don't find this. I just don't find this that bitter, but the malt base, as I say, is spot on, and the flavour profile is really, really nice. So yeah, I will say, you know, they get a thumbs up for the flavour of the beer. I'm basically just being a moany little shit about the IBUs of this thing. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. We'll focus on the flavour of the beer now. So middle of your palate, then you can feel that nice kind of bready base that just blankets the middle of the tongue. It feels very, very smooth actually, which I do like. It's just like a kind of white bready, bread crusty sort of thing. I really like that about this beer. The malt base, as I say, is absolutely solid. If you go towards the back of the palate, the final third of your tongue, you do get a little bit of graininess out of it. As you come further forward, you do get a little bit of a kind of, you can feel like a sort of island in the middle of your tongue, and it's got a bit of a kind of sweet, almost biscuity type quality to it there. It's like a kind of oily flavour, like the same as McVitie's digestives, but if you go into the very centre of the tongue, you've got a nice bit of sweet caramel there. You do have a little bit of straight up caramel on this one, which is nice, and I do get the impression they have added a little bit of that kind of grapey sugar to it. Like I say, the big thing about this beer for me, the thing that they've really got spot on with this is the malt base. I think they've really got that down to a T, so well done to them for that. It's got everything that you would want. It's not quite as, you know, thick and oily as you might get from the likes of Sierra Nevada or something like this, but yeah, I think this one is pretty nice actually. So yeah, the malt base on this I think really is pretty solid actually, and it works well with the fruits. On the hoppy side of things, as I say, in the back corners of the palate you've got a little touch of earthiness out of this one. As you move kind of further forward along the sides of the palate, you get a nice little bit of a kind of, you do get a little touch of a kind of herbally quality there, but then as you reach the front kind of corners of the tongue, you do get a nice little bit of floral aromaticity out of the beer. As I say, when it's Chinook that's in there, you do expect a little bit of pine resin. I do wonder if they have used another bittering hop in this one. It does have a wee element of almost that Columbus type spice to it, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I do like that about the beer, but then around the very front curve of the palate, it's just a little bit lighter and grassy, and then behind the front curve of the tongue, on the front third of your tongue, that's where you get the nice oily bubble, where the juicy fruity esters just start to roll their way out of the beer. So for me, this one, it's quite interesting. So if you go towards the back of that, you will get a little bit of the darker tropical fruit. There is a wee teeny bit of a grapefruity note from the Chinook, but the Chinook I don't think really shows itself very much in this beer. You get a wee touch of a kind of passion fruity note as well, but again, that's very minimal. I think, and that's just at the back of that front third of the tongue. As you come further forward from that, the beer really starts to lean towards the kind of mango-y notes. Then you get the nice kind of sort of tangerine, you get that kind of nice orangey note from the mosaic, and I find the orange quite oily, but at the same time it's that kind of slightly lighter, juicier flavour that you expect of mosaic rather than the more oily Amarillo that we always used to have. Amarillo's got that lovely big very thick oily quality out of it, which I really like. But yeah, you can feel as you go further into the aftertaste for this one, you do get a little bit of an almost lychee type flavour to it. There's maybe a wee kind of hint of gooseberry or something in there as well. But the fruity side of this beer, I think, is quite nice as well. But I do wonder if they have used a little bit. I wonder if that, what was it called again? The dextrose monohydrate. I do wonder if that is that kind of grape sugary thing that the Danish guys that sent me the homebrew were talking about. So that's an interesting point to make about this beer. So the fruity side of it's nice. As I say, it really, the further you go into the aftertaste, it really leans towards an oily orange and a bit of a gooseberry lychee kind of thing, which is interesting. So yeah, I do like that about the beer, and the malt base, like I say, is pretty solid. I do think that it's one of the more kind of bready leaning West Coasty IPAs that I've had, to be honest with you. This isn't the sweetest one, even with the new kind of version of this style, if you like, where the bitterness isn't quite as high. But yeah, it's definitely leaning more towards that kind of bready side of things. It really just needs a bit more kind of pine resin or floral aromatic spice to balance it out, and maybe a little touch more sweetness if they went in that direction as well. But I will say, as an IPA, this is a nice beer. You know, it's me being kind of overly nostalgic maybe. I think it does need a higher IBU count, to be quite honest with you. A West Coast IPA has to be at least 60, 70, even 80 IBUs. It really has to be up there, and this one isn't. So I think on this point we should move into the mouthfeel. But in terms of its flavour profile, they've got the fruits right, they've got the malt base right, and the hoppy flavours, in fairness, the green side of the hoppy flavours are right as well. It just needs a bit more bitterness to it. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say this is a fairly mid-bodied beer. Yeah, carbonation is very smooth in this one. I do like that about it. The mouthfeel, it's kind of a mixture between wet and oily. It's got a little bit of an oily character which helps the fruits, but it has got a bit of the smoothness from the malty side of things. So yeah, I'd say overall it's quite a smooth and slightly oily West Coast IPA. In terms of bitterness, I would be surprised if this one's over 40 IBUs, maybe 50 at an absolute push. As I say, that's my one complaint with this beer, is that it's not bitter enough, and I don't think that this beer is most definitely in good condition. It's not that it's been sitting for a while and the hops have dropped, it's just not brewed with enough IBUs, I don't think. The malt base, as I say, nice and smooth and bready. It's got a little bit of sweetness in the middle of the palate, and you've got a good oily kind of fruity character coming out of this one as well. So yeah, as a kind of standalone beer, I do like this one. I just think it needs a little bit more IBUs to be an authentic West Coast double IPA. So yeah, solid effort from North Brewing and Beerbliotek, I would say. They've got a great malt base there, they've got a great fruity combination. Just please, the next time, put the IBUs of this up. Put some more early edition hops in the beer and take it up to what a West Coast IPA used to be. But yeah, have a go at this one for yourself and see what you think. It's a solid enough beer, and I think you guys will enjoy it. This is a good introduction, I guess, to the West Coast IPAs for people that got into IPAs with the hazy, kind of juicy thing. So that's where I would recommend this beer comes in quite nicely. It's a good gateway beer for New England drinkers into the West Coast side of things. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Collaboration West Coast Double IPA at 8.5% from North Brewing in Leeds in Yorkshire in England, and Beerbliotek in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. A really nice tasting beer, this one, just lacking a little bit in IBUs. So let's leave it at that for this one. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Beerbliotek as well, and from North Brewing. We will no doubt return to these breweries at some point in the near future. And I thank you again for watching my channel. You know, check out both of these breweries, as I say. Give me some other West Coast double IPA recommendations. I really want to get out to California in the next kind of year or two, and you know, do a little bit of a tour around the kind of old school breweries like Green Flash and Stone, and you know, Russian River is one that I would really like to visit. This is a style of beer, as I say, that I really enjoy, and it is nice to see it starting to make a comeback. The breweries just need to put a bit more IBUs in them, I think. So yeah, let's leave it at that. The West Coast double IPA from North Brewing Company in Leeds, Yorkshire, England, in collaboration with Beerbliotek from Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, skull, cheers, make sure you check out this beer, and I'll catch you guys later.